Alrighty, folks. It is what? Are we on day 3 now of the latest Israel Gaza war? I have to say, I'm already tired of this. Normally, it takes a little longer for me to lose interest in a new war, but I'm pretty much tired of this. I mean, it's a rerun, and there's nobody here that you can root for. I'm sorry, Do I think that that the Hamas folks are good guys? I already said no. I mean, what else is there to say about that? No, I don't. I don't think that taking folks hostage, civilians, that's not a good idea. At the same time, Israel is responding. After what is it? A few hundred Israelis dead, or I guess we're over 1,000 now, something like that. I mean, it's a lot of people. Let's be clear. It's a lot of people. Israel saying, we're going to do a medieval siege of Gaza. No food, no water, no electricity. You're all on your own. We're shutting off the lights, shutting off the food. And by the way, Gaza has coastline. The Israeli Navy does not let boats land, I guess. I would presume the Israelis would also not let them, take fishing boats out to the Mediterranean and try and catch fish to eat. So it's like, yes, Hamas has murdered a lot of civilians over the last couple of days, if we are to believe the numbers that are coming out, which, I mean, you're seeing pictures of body bags. It's just like with Ukraine. It's like, when you would get numbers from Ukraine saying exactly how many civilians had been killed by the Ruskies, it's like, well, I mean, can you believe that directly? And then the same thing, with Russia saying how many civilians had been killed by the Ukrainians. Obviously these are biased parties reporting these numbers, but let's just say we take them at face value that over 1,000 Israelis have been killed. It's like, well, you do a medieval siege on a city of 2 million people, or I guess you would say like a little tiny strip, because not all of Gaza is Gaza City, I don't think, but there's 2 million people there, right? You cut off all their resources. Wouldn't take too long for thousands of people to die. I would think in order to get up to 1,000 people, I mean, if you got 2 million, the first thing that would go, I guess, would be the diabetics, right? The elderly people who need insulin. You cut off the electricity, the refrigerator shuts off. All your insulin's bad, right? And they're not letting any food or medicine coming in or out. Well, it takes, like a week to starve to death? I know it's harder to starve than it is to, like dehydration. Dehydration will kill you first. I don't know exactly how long that takes. I guess you would die of dehydration first because they're shutting off the water. I guess Israel controls the water supply for Gaza. Probably a strategically bad position to be in. And I kind of foreshadowed this, and I mean, not this exactly, on the first day. Why I was kind of not sweating this very much because... and I was questioning what the tactic here, or what the strategic goal of Hamas is in this conflict, because they know that they can't win. Israel holds all the cards. They call Gaza an open-air prison for a reason. It's because the people there do not have power or resources. They can scrape together some weapons, sure. They can, get some AKs and some RPGs and mortars. But they don't have control over their own resources. They don't have control over their own borders, certainly. They don't have control over international trade. And so the Israelis have the power to kill the folks in Gaza a lot faster than the folks in Gaza can kill Israelis. That's why the body counts, if you look at the historical, the historic record, it's a lot higher body count on the Palestinian side than on the Israeli side, because the Israelis are, they are more technically advanced. They are, they have had the upper hand militarily pretty much since the end of the what was it, the 48 war. They were the underdogs in that conflict, definitely, and since then, and I guess you could say, was it the 6-Day War, I think, where you had Egypt and Jordan and Syria involved, when you had other countries invading, you could say, well, they were underdogs then too, certainly the case. But the fact that Israel in the past has been able to hold their own against much bigger forces population-wise shows what an advantage they have. I don't think that's gone away. In order for Israel's advantage to go away, you would have to see like the Palestinians advance. And they haven't in any meaningful way. They are bands of militants, They can be as brutal as they want. They're still not going to be beating Israel. That's kind of the difference between, as I've said in the past, between terrorism and conventional warfare. When you're a terrorist, you act in certain ways because you don't have the power to wage a conventional war. But it seems like Hamas is waging a conventional war, but just one with high civilian casualties, which, to be fair, not all that different from what Israel does when they wage war, on Gaza. And so this conflict, I don't see how it serves anyone's interests, unless you want to be really cynical and just say, well, it helps Bibi Netanyahu because, more conflict with the Arabs is good for him because people will rally around him. It's like, okay, that's probably true, but, even I don't like to be that cynical. I would like to think that even Netanyahu, if given the choice, and knowing that no one was watching, if he had the choice to snap his fingers and make, none of this ever happen, I would like to think that even he would do that, even though it's to his political benefit for these things to occur, because he is the one, who people run to during times like this. When people's homes are directly threatened, when they can look out their window and see Hamas in their streets, when they turn on the news and they see Hamas in the streets of towns only, maybe an hour or two away from where they live by car, or less, could be 15, 20 minutes. Israel, geographically, again, very small. When people see that, that gives Netanyahu the political capital to do anything in his power to stop that. People want it to end, as they should. And so that gives him, a free pass to go into Gaza and do anything. I mean, anything short probably of a tactical nuke. Maybe that would garner some criticisms, especially since Israel still claims officially, we don't have nukes, and they want to save that for like a war with Iran or something. Never understood the obsession in Israel and Iran with each other. Like, if I lived in Iran, I would be saying to the Ayatollah all the time, it's like, we've got problems here. You're still talking about Israel, which is like, what, thousands of miles away? Or something like that. I mean, Israel very far away, can't touch us. Although they do the cyber attacks. And, Israel always concerned with Iran, which I think in Israel's case, it's more performative. I think that I think that the obsession with Iran is their way of trying to relate to the Sunni monarchs. That's their way of trying to gain Saudi Arabia and Jordan's trust, being like, hey, we're on your side. We hate Iran too. Because once upon a time, the Ayatollah and the Israelis, not this Ayatollah, the previous Ayatollah, I forget, is it Khamenei, the current one, or is the current one Khomeini? Either way, the old Ayatollah, the first one, he and the Israelis got along fairly well in the 80s. But anyway, that's not directly relevant to this. Except to say that the more that Iran is tied to this conflict, the more that Hezbollah, which is definitely, I think everyone on pretty much any side of the aisle recognizes that, Hezbollah is Iran's 51st state. They're definitely, very much a pro-Iran faction, and not just pro-Iran, just Iran proxies, fundamentally. Iran shills, if you will. I think most people, even pro-Hezbollah people, they tend to be like, well, yeah, we like Iran. That's part of our shtick. But Hamas, on the other hand, so you already have this conflict tied to Iran because of Hezbollah, and the more that Hezbollah is involved, the more that the other Arab states will see this as an Iranian war. But Hamas, too, by coordinating with them and all this, the more that Hamas is associated with Iran, the worse it is for them. Because you see, countries like Egypt, Saudi Arabia, or Jordan could actually help Hamas in their fight. Iran, I don't think really can. I mean, they're completely locked away geographically from anywhere that Iran could send assistance. Hezbollah can get support from Iran, through Syria, geographically speaking. They're connected in that sense. You've got Syria, which is a friend of Iran, and then you've got Hezbollah right next door in Lebanon. But Gaza, they're way over there, down by Egypt and Saudi Arabia. And so I think it hurts Hamas's cause to be associated with Iran at all, because that just pushes the Saudis and the Jordanians and the Egyptians much closer into Israel, into the point of almost outright supporting Israel, in these wars, whether it be this one or the next one or the one after. Eventually, I think you could see Saudi Arabia joining Israel's side overtly, and doing something to help them as a way of fighting a proxy war, treating Israel as a proxy against Iran, which I think has been Israel's goal with their anti-Iran policy now for decades. Essentially saying to the Sunni Arabs, hey, support Israel to own the Persians. Think about how pissed off those nasty Persians in Iran would be if we gave money to Israel. I think that's kind of the psychology that they're going for. Because as we've seen in Yemen, the Saudis do not have a problem with committing atrocities against other Arabs if they can, in their minds, paint those other Arabs as Iran proxies. What happened in Yemen is worse than anything that's happened in Gaza in recent years, to my knowledge. And so, would the Saudis really shed a tear if, let's say, 25% of Gaza's population was wiped out as a result of this siege? It's hard to say. A few years ago, I would have said, well, of course, Saudi Arabia would be pissed at that. But nowadays, under Mohammed bin Salman, maybe they wouldn't care. So, with that said, I will see you folks back here tomorrow.